Hello everyone, and welcome to another Tuesday night Eventide patrons only stream. How is everyone doing here this fine evening? I am doing pretty good. I'm Jason Bowman. If this is your first time here, I'm the creator of Eventide and the Pathfinder role-playing game. Today I want to talk a bit about the Dawnbringers. This is kind of being driven by my recent playtesting. In fact, just here last week, I had just run one session. Since then, I've run two more. So I have run 3 sessions in the past, 8 or 9 days. One was kind of a makeup, and then the 2 normal ones happened. And in that period of time, my groups went from kind of being in the early stages of the investigation in part 2 of Wolfran's Fate to now being deeply inculcated into it and getting close to actually solving it. So, which is good, because both of them are about to roll over into the Eventide Festival, which kind of starts phase 2 of that part of the adventure. So, I've been thinking, and because this is kind of progressing a little slower than I would like, I may give you the first part of this adventure as a PDF here soon, kind of like how I did with the part 1 of Wolfran's Fate. I broke it up into 2 halves. I may do that here again and give folks the first half, and then give the second half as we play through it, which is mostly the Eventide Festival and the battle with the Gaunts. But just putting that on the table, that is the thing that is happening. So, yeah, it's been a wild week or so. I've been super busy running these playtests. And doing my ordinary streams and stuff like that. So it's been one swamped week. Not to mention it's been very busy at work as well. So, but both groups have now gotten to the point where they've both had their meeting with the Dawnbringers. So, as part of part 2 of Wolfran's Fate, there's a floating encounter that happens sometime in the first day. And what it is it's a messenger, a member of the Waysong Guild. They're the local, delivery and, local tour guide kind of organization, mostly run by halflings, that look like kids, and play off being kids to get bigger tips. So, the, Waysong Guild delivered this message, to the players, and, you know what? It's probably worth reading that precisely. So let me go ahead and pull this up since I have the adventure right here. They get a message delivered to them that reads as follows. Brave explorers, I offer you salutations. It has come to our attention that you have ventured deep into the lair of Wolfran, and as such, I must inform you that this is but the first step in your path to the truth. Although it will lead you to enlightenment, I must warn you that it is not without danger. While we wish to help you on your journey, there are those who would see it come to a quick end. I hope that you will take this next step with us. If you would seek the truth, visit the Black Thumb at noon tomorrow and ask the shopkeeper for Aubade ink. So that's the setup, right? They get that on the first day, and both groups kind of got it and were like, that's weird. And then just kind of filed it away and continued with their investigation. They've both groups have been kind of going around the city doing all the tasks. They've now both done the House of Order kind of side quest where you have to go and tour around with the member of the Valanav clergy, who is kind of not a great character. Both groups have been like, this person's awful. Because the first thing she does is she goes to a local soup kitchen and preaches at them that they are poor because they have not been worshipping Valanav. It does not go over well. It turns into kind of a food fight, and the players have to kind of voluntarily shield her to stay in her good graces because they need to get at the records in the House of Order. But all of them have had members of the group that are like, I'm not protecting her, and just got out of the way, where others are like, well, listen, I'll do it just so that we can get what we need. But this woman's terrible, right? So, they've had those encounters. They've both now figured out that Wolfran had a secret love in town named Jarotha, and that Jarotha may still live. And one group has already met Jarotha. They went out and met her. The other group just found her address. So they've been kind of doing some different things. The group that hasn't met her yet has done a whole bunch of the other locations, whereas the other groups just skipped those. And I don't know that that'll mess up the adventure over much. They kind of skipped some of the red herrings just accidentally. But that's fine. I do feel like they've missed some of the context, but it's not super critical. So all of that led to the second day, and then, you know, during the first night, they get attacked by some ruffians who have been hired to ambush them. Both groups dealt with that ambush well. Both groups are now very perplexed over who could possibly have put a hit out on them. And that is the setup. Those two pieces, the strange letter and then the ambush, are kind of the setup for the meeting with the Dawnbringers. So they go to the Black Thumb, and they don't even know what the Black Thumb is, but the Black Thumb is a printing shop. It's described lavishly as, you know, it's a place where you can buy papers and inks and stuff like that. But the middle of it is all old typeset printing presses, right? So basically giant wood frames, with levers and dowels and you basically line up all the type on rails, lock it all into place, and then you just roll ink across it, layer the paper down, press the paper against it, raise it up, rinse, repeat, and that's how you print. And then you take the pages and you hang them up to dry, let the ink dry, and then the pages are cut and bound into books, right? Or pamphlets or whatever there is. So that's going on here. And the shop has a kind of older woman who is the front of house, and then in the back of house is the guy doing the printing. And when they come in, it's a printing shop, so they get treated as if they're customers at first until they ask for Aubade ink, and that triggers the start of the kind of chance encounter with the Dawnbringers. So from there, they're told to go speak to Alipar in the back. So they go and they talk to the man doing the printing, and when they ask him for Aubade ink, he is like, come this way, come with me. And he takes them back to the stamp room, right? This is the room where they have all of the stamps for the printing presses arranged and cataloged, to make it easy to do, a typeset, right? You're able to easily go to where all of the types are, pick them up, and slot them into place, right? And he takes them back there, but then lifts up a carpet, revealing a trap door that leads down into the secret base, the lair of the Dawnbringers. Now, both groups had a lot of apprehension about this, because he plays it up. Like, when they get to the back room, he calls the woman in front and tells her, perhaps it's time for lunch. So she goes and locks the front door, locking them in, and turns the sign to closed temporarily. And this gives them, kind of privacy, and they make their way down the stairs. Both groups there was at least one player in each group who drew a weapon surreptitiously just to be like, just in case. And when they get downstairs, they realize it's some secret meeting room and library. And stranger still, there is a painting of Wolfrin on the far wall. And Alipar reveals to them that he is the leader of the local chapter of the Dawnbringers. So that brings me around to, what are the Dawnbringers? What's their whole deal, and what's their purpose in this story? So the Dawnbringers are, these days, a secretive organization. They weren't always. They were initially just a group of scholars dedicated to carrying on the work of Arvanis. Now, Arvanis lived in the late 200s, early 300s TD. He lived through Eventide. And being a scholarly sort, after the events of Eventide, he started researching what the hell had just happened. 3 weeks of darkness is not an ordinary thing. So he started looking into it and spent the rest of his life, the last 40 years of his life, doing research, conducting experiments, getting accounts from people, and trying to figure out what was going on with Eventide. This led to his treatise, The Seven Truths, which was He sent a copy to the Queen of Zankar and then took his own life with poison. So that's where Arvanis' story ends. The Dawnbringers were founded shortly thereafter, having gotten some of the information from the Seven Truths. This group was dedicated to try and find all of them and find a complete copy of this. They wanted to know what Arvanis knew, and, if necessary, carry on his work. So in essence, this group is kind of redoing Arvanis' research, but they're doing it 1,000 years later, or 900 years later. And as a result, they don't have all the pieces. They don't have all of the information to make the right conclusions. Also, in 900 years, things have changed quite a bit. So the Dawnbringers founded under this cause, and they were originally, in Zankar. They were based around the Library of Grogasa, which is a giant old elven library that became the biggest repository of books in the world. And they were there for several hundred years until Zankar branded them heretical. They basically said these are conspiracy theorists and we don't want them here. So they made the organization illegal in Zankar. So unsurprisingly, it fled because there was a purge to try and remove this organization. So the Dawnbringers fled from Zankar and kind of scattered all over the place. And its main headquarters, or the biggest chapter, the one that was in Grogasa, relocated to Varnathus. So the lines are starting to come together here. So this is I don't think I've quite determined when it is. It's probably somewhere in the 600s, 6 or 700s. And they relocate to Grogasa. Now, or sorry, not Grogasa. They relocate to Varnathus. And but that said, they have other chapter houses as well. They have a chapter house in Belcrash. They have, a chapter house down in Crownbog. They've got other places where folks are collecting this research and trying to continue his work. So fast forward then another 150 years, and a young student at the university, the Pale Ivy College in Varnathus, takes an interest in the Dawnbringers, and this young man was called Wulfrin. Wulfrin learns about this, but decides that there's only so much he can do in Varnathus. The organization here is well established and has access to the entire college's library because they brought a bunch of books and stuff with them from Grogasa, and decides instead that the smart play is to set up a new chapter house in Ornbone, at this time Elfend, because the city at this time was growing by leaps and bounds. It had gone from being just kind of an elven ruin to now being the central stopping point on the Ruby Road from Varnathus all the way to Tustown. So if you were, transporting goods or cargo and you wanted to take it, across the continent, or, you were trading in things from the continent itself, this road was a pivotal route of trade. And to top it off, Elfend was built on Ilsanvenir, which is not far away from where Wulfrin grew up. So Wulfrin grew up not in Elfend, he grew up in Red Thistle. His family's from Red Thistle. But he wanted to, had an interest in the arts, and by that I mean the magical arts. So he went to Varnathus to be educated. But instead of moving back to Red Thistle, because he didn't think that Red Thistle would have everything he needed, he instead moved to Elfend and set up shop there. This was the town that would become Wormbone. So this happened in the late 770s when he completed his education. So relatively young Wulfrin moves to Elfend, sets up shop, buys a tower, and begins investigating what the elves knew elves, what the elves knew about Eventide. And he starts his investigation locally, right? Digging through all the local sources of lore and history. And remember, at this time, Eventide was 500 years in the past. That's a long time, but still not as far away as it is today. In fact, there were still elves alive who lived through Eventide at this time. So he goes there and sets up a new chapter house of the Dawnbringers, and that chapter house has survived to today. However, in those years, even up here in the north, where the Dawnbringers used to work rather openly, over the past several hundred years, public opinion about them has soured. And there isn't one particular reason about it, except for the fact that most people view them as kind of conspiracy theory, crackpots. They believe that there was this terrible thing that happened now, 890 years ago. And most people are like, why would you think there's still something bad going on? That was forever ago. Something bad was going to happen, it would have happened already. And as a result, they don't get much support. Now, this is exacerbated by the fact that the Gaunts have appeared. And the Gaunts have been around for a while now. No one in the Dawnbringers is quite sure when they started appearing. But they know that the Gaunts exist. And that the Gaunts have been moving to block them and foil them all these years. Now, to them, it's things like the courier lost the package, or, our contact never arrived who was coming to bring us a missive and a new tale, a new piece of our investigation. Oh, there was a fire in the library that had the book we wanted and, had the book of all the first-hand accounts, and now that book is gone. Right? There's too many things happening, and they just blame it. They have rightfully, or perhaps rightfully, come to, in their minds, believe that the Gaunts are behind this. Now, they've never seen Gaunts directly. Gaunts are hard to pin down. They say that they've seen signs of them in crowds and in dark places, but whenever you look at them, they're gone again. They have a tendency to blend in and disappear. But the visions that they have had of these individuals has always painted them as very tall, very thin, and obviously, this is the Gaunts, the villain of this part of the adventure, because the Gaunts are real. And that's the thing that, as all of this comes together, right, the conspiracy theory crackpots are, going to be proved to be right. You're not paranoid if everyone is actually out to get you. But because of that, over the years, they've become more and more secretive. They don't work openly anymore. They don't advertise for help, because the Gaunts, if they work openly, the Gaunts can find them easily. It's kind of a game of cat and mouse, where the Dawnbringers are in hiding, trying to continue their research and do what they can to understand what is happening, and the Gaunts are moving to stop them. So, that brings us to our local chapter. Now, the local chapter is currently run by a man called Alipar Clifton, and both groups have now met Alipar. Alipar ends up being a central figure in this part of the adventure because, in the end, he's the one who gets kidnapped. So, Alipar, I've got a great voice for Alipar, by the way. I'll give you a sample of it. He talks a bit like this, but he speaks with conviction, and he likes to end his sentences talking louder. I believe in the truth. Right? That's my Alipar. Both groups have had a good time with him, but as a result, it makes him seem kind of unhinged. Right? He's kind of, he invites them down there and he tells them, "You have taken the first step into a greater truth." Right? And they're all like, sure. And at the end, right, as he's telling them that, and he even goes to say that, "Oh, these gods, they haunt us from the shadows. They seek our members and hope to stymie us. in every path, right? And he's certainly a character. And throughout all this, he tells them, that Wolfrun's founded the organization and that they're here to try and understand the root causes behind Eventide and what is still happening today. And at the end, he says, yeah, and they're probably hunting you as well. Now, both groups have kind of said, wait, we did just have some people try and kill us, and we don't know why. And he's like, aha! Right, but he doesn't know anything about the kind of the like card that they have on them. That he doesn't have any knowledge about that, but he does like connect the dots. He leaps to conclusions, and he's got a good reason why, because at the end he produces a dagger, the dagger that was used to kill Greyfawn Nimblebrow, who was one of their members. So this is the big reveal to them at this point of the adventure, that Greyfawn, who they met in the very first scene of this adventure, actually worked for the Dawnbringers, that these events have been in motion since minute 1. And both groups kind of had a moment, which was fun. And what Alipar has not yet revealed is that he has other allies that they have met. Lieutenant Havanok is a member of the Dawnbringers. So Havanok has been feeding them information about what's going on in the tower. Knowing that she couldn't go in herself, they decided to try and send Greyfawn in. But Greyfawn got murdered by Gaunts that first night. So the whole thing, in the end, it's more of just giving them this reveal that this individual that they met that died was in on this organization and was going to go with them so that they could report about what was found in here in Wolfrun's Tower, because obviously the contents of Wolfrun's Tower is really important to this organization. What is in there may greatly expand their library, right? Some of this stuff they haven't been able to access in hundreds of years. So, yeah, and, well, frankly, both groups thought they might have accidentally killed Greyfawn in one way or another. One group felt that they, in one group I have a snake oil salesman, Goblin Bard, who sold him some snake oil that first night, and was worried that the snake oil killed him. So, was relieved when it turned out to be a dagger. So, yeah, the final reveal here is that these things are all tied together, and frankly, there isn't another action item here other than to kind of wrench up the PC's paranoia, right? To give them a sense that this isn't just go to A, B, C, and D kind of linear investigation, that there is an active enemy. Because that enemy has not directly revealed itself, but it is moving against them. Are these assassins linked and connected? Maybe. They don't know yet, but maybe. Behind the scenes, they are. The assassins, the thugs that were hired to beat them up, were hired through the Belching Blackguard, a hidden tavern for criminals and ne'er-do-wells that has kind of a criminal job board. And that is located out in the fields, and you have to know where it is, and you have to know the right knock on a shed, and the shed leads to a staircase that goes underground and leads back underneath into the jumbles, underneath some houses in an old abandoned basement, which is where the Belching Blackguard is located, and all of the smoke and all the stuff is funneled up through other chimneys to keep it well hidden. The whole thing is just this hidden back alley bar. They won't go there yet. I don't think going there is actually even going to be part of this adventure. Although, if I do make it possible, I will have to provide details. So I think I may end up adding that just to see if either group tries to track it down, because it is really hard to do. Because the most upstanding citizens know nothing about it. The guards don't know anything about it. They've just seen some of these cards lately. And if they get there, then they can talk to the owner, who remembers someone coming to place the hit on them, but knows nothing about the individual. Can't remember anything about what they look like, and that's because this is a Gaunt who came and placed this. So, this is the sort of, web of secrecy and lies and stories that the players have found themselves drawn into. Now, in the modern day, there are other chapter houses of the Dawnbringers. The biggest one is still in Varnathus, but they're in all of the major northern settlements. In that, I mean, they're in Varnathus, they're in Wormbone, and they have some agents in Tusktown, just to make sure that they have a chain of information from both ports. They're not really in smaller places like Red Thistle or the Free Farms, or, Anvil Stump or anything like that. They're not in any of the smaller community places. But they are kind of spread out around the world. They are still not allowed in Zenkar. They are outlawed there and treated as a threat to the state, because they're preaching doom and gloom, and the state is all about talking about the future. So, that is kind of the organization. Now, what's their purpose, right? That's the next step of this. Why did I include a crackpot organization? Well, their job is to draw attention to kind of the game's, the setting central mystery. They're the ones who are in on it. They're the NPCs who know something. Frankly, they're there to serve a story purpose of introducing this stuff without the PCs having to found it and find it all themselves. They're there to be an exposition dump when needed, but otherwise they're just there to be kind of the mysterious group that thinks something is wrong and is an impetus for change and moving the story forward. So, the end result here of Wulfrin's fate, should the players be successful, is that Wulfrin is returned to the world. And Wulfrin, obviously is going to need a new place to live because his tower is a ruin. But he is going to join back up with the Dawnbringers and will end up resuming his mantle of leadership after a time. Maybe I'll leave it with Alipar. I haven't quite decided yet. But I think it would be really interesting to have him kind of come back and lend legitimacy to this organization, and then it becomes a organization that the players may use to get information, get jobs, get, have contacts, do missions for them, like running, research from place to place, or going to retrieve a rare book from Varnathus because they have something that needs to be translated and it can't be moved. It's a complex shifting series of runes on a wall. We need the translation book. It's in Varnathus. Go get it. I think there are definitely routes forward in which that becomes an avenue for adventure. Right now, just kind of an introduction. Getting to know you. No real threats, no real dangers from them. But, frankly, the PCs in both groups don't trust them. They both groups think they're that's a little far-fetched. There's these strange, mysterious creatures that are walking around in strange sight, trying to stymie this bookbinder's ambitions. Seems a bit much. They will soon find out that it is quite true. That the Dawnbringers are being targeted by the Gaunts. This printing shop is going to be vandalized, burnt, and Alipar is going to be taken prisoner at the end of this part, and the PCs will have to go rescue him. So all of it kind of comes together to tell this story and kind of explore the first steps of the kind of bigger mystery. Again, this isn't the adventure that's going to solve it all. This adventure is really just about that initial bit of setup of freeing Wulfrin from his slumber and setting him up as a contact and a useful agent for the players, that is all just kind of setting the stage for adventures to come after Wolfrun's fate. So that's what I kind of got on the Dawnbringers here today. I know that's not a full hour here, but I did see a question or two. If anybody has any other further questions about anything I've talked about here tonight, I'll be happy to answer them. And I'll give you a moment to type those in. The first one here is, does the Dawnbringers know why Arvanis took his life? Or did somebody set him up, or is it unknown? It is accepted that he took his own life. Whether or not that is true, the Dawnbringers do not know. But according to history books, that's what happened. Now, could something else have occurred? Maybe. Maybe Arvanis did want to continue his research, but there's something very final about what he did. He did pen his book, his final treatise. He sent copies to places and then promptly drank a bunch of poison and died. So that is mysterious, to be sure, and there's undoubtedly folks within the Dawnbringers who believe that he was murdered, right? That this wasn't him taking his own life, that he instead, was drugged or murdered or, who knows. But there's no way, really, that the PCs are going to be able to figure that out, especially not in the context of this adventure. That would be a very big mystery and reveal to learn that Arvanis didn't die by his own hand. In fact, was silenced. I think there is something interesting there, but fundamentally, I don't know that it changes the narrative of what's going on. How large is the current organization? The current group is, here in Wormbone, it's a dozen members, right? There's about a dozen folks. In Varnathis, it's more like 50. In Tustown, it's half a dozen. So it used to be larger than it is now. Because when they had to go into hiding, it became very hard to recruit. Well, and they're down one more as of late because of the death of Greyfawn Nimblebrow. No, that's not good. So the thing is, like his treatise, The Seven Truths, knowledge of it is only as widely known as it is because of the Dawn. But the actual contents of it are mostly a mystery. That is because the Library of Gorgassa said they never received the copy that he sent. Now, the Dawnbringers have a big point of contention here, saying that that cannot possibly be true, that according to their own history, it was received and was viewable for like 100 years, but was kept in a restricted area, and you had to have special permission because it was a rare, one-of-a-kind volume. But they have no records of what's in it. So there's a lot of confusing myth, kind of legends about it now. There are some who think that the library may still have it, or that the Zenkar Imperium had it destroyed. It's not entirely clear what happened to that. And according to the Dawnbringers, he made more than one copy and sent it to a number of places, but no one has been willing to come forward and say, yeah, I got a copy. Well, here's what it says, right? It's not, no one's seen it. So when it comes to recruitment, the Dawnbringers spend most of their days, right? I mean, it's not, investigating a 900-year-old mystery isn't easy. And it's slow work. So a lot of times they're kind of waiting for correspondence or doing research with old books, and they pass things around from each other and view, oh, here's a book filled with first-hand accounts from Eventide. Take a look. There's some interesting stuff in here. So their recruitment is equally kind of slow. They aren't actively trying to find people, but directly. They do keep an eye out for all the places of learning where people might learn anything about Eventide to see if anyone shows a special interest or wants to learn more or digs into it. So in Varnathis, the main library there has several books about Eventide, but if any of them get checked out, the Dawnbringers learn about it. Because they want to seek out those people and make sure that A, the books aren't being destroyed or stolen. Not that they don't have copies. But B, that anyone who shows a real interest, they might surreptitiously approach. And they had hoped to do this with the PCs, but they had to move, frankly, far less subtly than they normally do because of Greyfawn's death. And because they feel like the Gaunts are closing in on them. It is possible that the Gaunts had something to do with this. They're not sure how long the Gaunts have been around. According to the Dawnbringers, the Gaunts have only been around for a few 100 years. But they can't be sure of that. They only know locally. And whether or not Zankar had it destroyed or the Empress had it destroyed or moved to a different secret library, again, nobody knows. Where is it? Not sure. Does it even still exist? Also not sure. I mean, Zankar clearly only wants one vision of the future, one vision of truth, and that is what is dictated by Zankar, and this would fall outside of that. And as such, it would end up on their, banned book list. They don't teach much about Eventide in Zankar. They teach history, and it is mentioned, but it's more like a footnote. So most of the folks in Zankar don't think Eventide was really anything. It was a bad storm. Probably something that some of those old wizards did. That's why it's good that there aren't any more wizards, right? To them, it's a piece of kind of, I guess propaganda is kind of the wrong word, but it's being used to justify different outcomes, right? Oh, well, those sorts of old, strange, magical events used to happen, and once the world went dark for 3 weeks. Some people read that a lot differently than they do in Zankar. So, I mean, the Dawnbringers are cynical about the whole thing, but no one's really surprised that Zankar isn't putting things like this on a pedestal, because it runs counter to their narrative that, the greatness of Zankar is kind of the only future that anyone needs to concern themselves with. And, all of these other things just led to the birth of their greatness, right? In fact, Eventide was seen and is taught as the moment that, the folks rose up against that kind of the weird mysticism of the past and moved on to a brighter, better future in Zankar, right? So the whole thing's a bit of a mess. The players are starting to get a sense of that, right? The Dawnbringers certainly muddy the water a whole bunch of what they think history is and where it's going and what it's doing. But, the fact that Greyfawn was a member really kind of ties the whole thing together with them in a nice little bow. So, yeah, it's been fun watching them play this out. I don't have another session until next Thursday, and both groups are now getting pretty close to learning about where the ring might be. There's one last logical step it'll be interesting to see if they're able to make, or if I'll need to draw them a more direct line. And that is, once they learn Wolfran's full name and the name of his brother, they can go back to the House of Order and learn that his brother did engage in one contract when he was in town, and that was with a merchant to sell his book. And as a result, they can learn that the brother wrote a book. And that if they can find the book, they can learn where the brother lives. Or lived, because it was 300 years ago. So that's the final leap, is that they realize that the brother wrote a book, and if they could find a copy of that book, they could learn about the brother, and that might allow them to narrow down where the brother lived, and hence where the ring ended up. And then it's just a matter of going there and trying to find out if anyone has the ring. So, but that's part 3 of the adventure. So we're not there yet. We're not there yet. Right now, we're just in the middle of this investigation, and we've met our weird conspiracy theory crackpots that they'll have to save at the end of this chapter. But I think that'll all come together nicely. All right, folks. Yeah, no, everything's coming together great. I think there's been some challenges with the story, and some things have been tightening up and changing, but that's how playtest works. So it is coming together nicely. The text for it, for at least the first half, is nearly done. I'm literally just putting some finishing touches on it. So that's nearly done, and the second half is underway, of a second half of part 2. But that deals with creating a sewer map and doing the kind of trap house and all that kind of stuff. So there's still a fair amount of work to be done on this, but I'm making good progress. What else I got going on? Okay, so the next stream will be this coming Saturday for Master and Lord tier, and we'll be doing another Secrets of Eventide stream. Not quite sure what I'm going to be talking about this coming Saturday. I'll be giving it some thought, and we'll see what I come up with. Probably some more in-depth look at lore and story and stuff like that. I don't know. Not sure what the topic will be, but I'll figure it out before Saturday. So that'll be this Saturday at 3 p.m. for those of you at that support tier. And that will also be the start of the next month. I am still waiting for part 1 to get back from my editor. And it is frustrating me, and we'll see how it goes. But I've been waiting very patiently. My patience is running out. So we will see how that plays out. Because frankly, I'm frustrated that I'm not able to get part 1 finished and polished and out to all of you. Because that's what I really want to do. But I need it to be done with edit. And it is taking longer than I expected. That said, I have something else I'm cooking up, and it's not Eventide, but as patrons here, I will as a consolation, I will be tossing it to all of you for free when it comes out. Something else entirely. I don't want to spoil it yet, but I do want to say that sometime in the next few weeks, assuming I can finish writing it, it's not a huge thing, but it is something fun that I'm playing around with. And all of you will get it for free, just for being my patrons and being so patient with me. I do appreciate it, and this has just been a thing I've been able to tinker with and toy with and have some fun with. Because I oftentimes find that I work best when I have multiple projects I'm kind of toying around with. And this is one that I've actually been tinkering with for several months. So I don't want to give anything away. I'm going to keep it a secret until it's almost ready, and then I'll probably dump some news about it in the VIP chat on my Discord first, and then after that, I will bring it out to all of you, and then it'll go out to the public as well. So, but all of you will get it for free. Probably only be like a $5 or $10 PDF, but everybody here has been so patient that I'll throw it all your way for free. So that's what I got going on, folks. I want to thank you all for watching here tonight. I've got another stream starting up here in just about 15 minutes. We're going to play some more Wrath of the Righteous. So that is where we are at right now, folks. Thank you for watching. I hope to see you all this coming Saturday, or if not, we'll see you next Tuesday for another Eventide stream. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you next time.